Hopefully your table's not broken after that.
I don't know.
I hope you're not expecting a new corner to skulk in. Hi, everybody.
I just bashed my phone on the table to make it work.
Yeah, because it's not broken enough. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mr. Bishop. Wow, go Dakota. Yeah, hi, Mom. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dakota.
Well, no, he's playing in a football game, actually.
Oh, nice.
And apparently absolutely brutalizing them.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Tina. Hey, Kara.
Yeah, welcome from one side to the other. Unfortunately, Jesus is not with us tonight. He may or may not have accidentally knocked himself unconscious. Don't worry, we'll send him flowers to the hospital. But anyway, tonight, kind of a retro show. Just me, the bishop,
Hi.
my trusty dogs. Gonna keep Choopy over here where I can keep an eye on him and make sure he doesn't cause any havoc. Yeah, you sit right there. Good boy. Ha. Anyway, and we are continuing our journey to talk about a cryptid from each of the American 50 states. And before we get started, I wanted to ask a question to everybody in the chat real quick. I mentioned this to the bishop a minute ago. Have you ever noticed that anytime there's a reptilian cryptid, it is either a humanoid or a snake? You never hear about, like, the cryptid gecko of Guatemala or some shit. It's always either a humanoid bipedal creature who lives underneath Denver Airport, or it's a megaconda. It's never anything else. Oh, okay, Mr. Bishop can actually hear us. Good. Well, that was a bit of a long delay, actually, before we started the show tonight. But anyway.
My phone's acting out.
Yeah. But anyway, so tonight we're talking about more of our cryptid inhabitants of North America, specifically the 50 states. A little bit of a disclosure real quick. Kind of the goal here is to not take the easy road and just talk about the cryptids that everybody knows. I mean, we've talked about Mothman, we've talked about the Jersey Devil, stuff like that. I specifically wanted to find more obscure, unusual cryptids. I also kind of wanted to avoid the magic ones, which makes the 3 states that we have tonight particularly a pain in the ass. No, not that kind of pain in the ass. We're not in Loveland anymore.
Well, Jesus isn't here to make fun of the frog.
Stop that. Anyway, but no, we're starting off in Kansas for one of the most ridiculously named cryptids I've ever heard of. I legitimately thought that I was being trolled when I looked this up. Because here's the weird thing about Kansas. There's nothing in fucking Kansas.
Not really, just corn.
Yeah. No, there's nothing there. There's like really almost nothing. Aside from Bigfoot.
My dad can attest, we drove through Kansas. It was long.
Must have been boring as hell. But I did find a cryptid guilty of one of the worst names I've ever heard for a cryptid. Sinkhole Sam. You think I'm joking. So, Sinkhole Sam is located just outside a town called, I think it's pronounced Inman?
Inman?
Inman, Kansas.
It's probably Inman, I don't know where it's at.
Yeah. But it has a second name. Don't laugh. Foopengurkle. I said don't laugh. Yeah, I know, right? Could you imagine? Your name is Sinkhole Sam. Can't I have a different name? Foopengurkle. Sounds like something Rose from the Golden Girls would say. You know what I mean? You get a Ouija board and do a seance for Betty White, and it just spells out Foopengurkle, and you're like, what? But anyway, so this creature is said to inhabit what is left of Inman Lake. Now, I say what's left because apparently a long time ago, many, many years ago, and I could not find a specific date when this happened, but basically there was some kind of tectonic movement and multiple sinkholes formed underneath this lake and turned it from a lake into literally a bunch of sinkholes. And here's how you know you're in Kansas. Each of these sinkholes has a different name. The big sinkhole, the small sinkhole, the middle sinkhole, the other sinkhole. You think I'm joking. These are actually what they're... No, you can look these up on a map. That's what they're called.
The A-hole.
The big sinkhole, the small sinkhole, the normal sinkhole, the other sinkhole. That's literally how they cataloged these things in Kansas. Now, in the big sinkhole, and this was back in 1952, a pair of men were trying to fish in the big sinkhole. The jokes just write themselves, don't they? I'm kind of glad Jesus is unconscious right now.
Yeah, if Jesus was here.
Hi, Dad.
We're a family-friendly show tonight.
Oh, yeah, no. We're going to be... Oh, yeah, no. Oh, just you wait till what I got for the finale. Oh, boy, howdy. I've never actually stopped and thought, maybe we shouldn't talk about this one.
The grody one.
Until what I've got saved up for the end. Anyway, now, these two men were trying to fish when they claimed that they were terrified by, and I'll quote their description here. One said it was a 15-foot long serpent with a flat head. The other man claimed that it was much more likely 30 feet long. Now, I personally am kind of... That right off the bat is not a good sign when the two people who see it can't get their story straight, though I do actually have an explanation. If this thing is rising up out of the sinkhole, it's very likely one of them could have booked it and ran before they saw the full length of the creature. I mean, they could that could explain why one said it was 15 feet, the other said it was 30. Just got a better look at it. But anyway, what's interesting about this is that they went and they reported seeing the creature because they didn't know what the hell it was, and it could be a danger to people. It's a 15 or 30 foot long snake, yeah. They described that, and again, I'm so glad Jesus is in here because he would run with this so hard and get us canceled. It was thick as a tire on a car is wide. That is they wrote that down. That's how they described it. Between 15 to 30 feet long and roughly the diameter of a car's tire. Now, to be fair, I'll point out, that is a big effing snake.
That is a really big snake.
Now,
what they've been smoking.
Now, from there are stories of this serpent. Now, what's interesting is that this snake isn't confined. Yeah, my mom brings a good point. Male measuring is always slightly different. That's a very good point, actually, Mom. But anyway, what's interesting is that, again, there are multiple of these sinkholes dotted all over where this lake used to be. And Sam is not confined to any one. He has been reported being seen in the big sinkhole, the normal sinkhole, the other sinkhole, the small sinkhole, the A-hole, the B-hole, so on and so on. So some people theorize that actually there's some kind of underground water system that all these sinkholes lead into, and he's able to pop up like a Diglett from any one of them. Or Don Callis if you're a WWE, AEW fan. Anyhow, now what's interesting is that most stories indicate he's not dangerous, except for one single incident. Many individuals have tried to capture Sam. One man had a great idea. It's a big snake. Snakes need meat, right? They eat meat. They're carnivores. So, unaware that he would inspire one of the best big animal movies of all time, Lake Placid, he brought a cow. A live, bell around its neck, poor sweet old Bessie cow to the big sinkhole and proceeded to wait there. He had a camera set up. Keep in mind, this is like, I want to say the 60s or the 70s when this occurred. So he has an old style camera that like you have to set up. You know, yeah, you got to like...
Old crank camera.
Yeah, you got to get a tripod ready. You got to get it extended. You need the flash powder. You might need to Hail Mary a couple times to make sure the thing will work at all. Hour passes. Cow's just standing there in front of the water, confused. He's waiting. He gets annoyed and decides he is going to get up from his vantage point with his camera, go get a beer. He heard a splash, turned around, and Bessie was gone. He claimed that Sam had been waiting just in the dark part of the water for him to turn his back and then immediately pounce and swallow the cow whole. This is the only account of Sam ever attacking anything, which raises the question of, okay, everything has to eat. What is he eating if he's there? But
Hey, this guy turned the camera off conveniently?
no, he walked away from it. He had walked, because he was sitting in like a chair with the camera on the cow, ready to go, waiting. A couple hours passed. He decided, okay, nothing's going to happen in the 15 seconds it takes me to turn around and get a beer. And that's when Sam struck. So he wasn't able to get footage of it, but he had one less cow. And he had been drinking beer by his own admittance. So there you go. But what's interesting about Sam... Well, no, because remember how I mentioned at the start of the show, when it's a reptile, it's always either a big-ass snake or it's a humanoid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. There's a theory that Sam might have a sibling known as the Monster of Kingsman County. The Monster of Kingsman County has been cited multiple times. Once again, guess what? Cropping up in, you guessed it, the 50s. In, Kingsman County, Kansas, which is a whole 50 miles away from Inman. And real quick, I want to point out, 50 miles sounds like a lot. It's not. It's actually not. Truth of the matter is, a lot of people probably drive farther to work than that. 50 miles is not too much to travel, especially if you're an animal that's like going back and forth between these two locations, staying for great lengths of time. Now,
It's not too much. I mean, that is kind of a commute. It's like an
yeah, but
hour and a half commute maybe on speed, but yeah, that's not that far.
No, Dad, I have not yet called Aunt Cherry. I'm going to. I will. Hopefully we can get her on next week, actually. But anyway, back to my story. The Monster of Kingsman is similar to Sam, except for one big difference. This creature goes onto the land. Sam, according to one drunk guy with a camera, can lunge out of the water. But any other stories, he doesn't. He might rise up at the surface, but he never goes on the land, at least when anyone can see him. Not Kingsman. Kingsman will come out of the water and kick your ass and then make you apologize for the inconvenience. This creature is highly aggressive, and there are multiple stories of it bursting out of the water to attack livestock. Yep, there it is. Dogs. Lots of people have said they lost hunting dogs to Kingsman, which is why some people argue it's not Sam. Other people say it is, because this creature jumps out of creeks, rivers, any fresh water. This thing can pop out, which again goes back to the theory that there could be a massive underground body of water that this serpent is able to move around in. And I would make an argument, because everyone says that Kingsman and Sam behave completely differently. Well, yeah, because the sinkholes are Sam's nest. An animal is going to behave differently in a nest than if it's out hunting. Now, does that mean that Sam and Kingsman are the same creature? No, of course not, obviously. Don't be ridiculous. But they're both described as being huge snakes. What's weird is that Sam specifically is described as having a flat head, whereas Kingsman looks like a more normal snake. Which actually would go back to the whole nesting theory. Snakes can puff up and look a little bit different depending on the situation. If he's half awake in his nest and he realizes you're there, he might be in a more docile, half awake state. Versus if he's out swimming around looking for something to eat, like Fido, which, by the way,
Bye, Fido.
Why? See, that's the thing that annoys me about hunting dogs, is like, okay, even taking out the fact that this is a living creature capable of feeling pain and fear and so on, the practicality in using your hunting dog, recklessly and sending it into danger, that's just a financially stupid idea. Do you know how much it costs to replace a dog? Especially if you get a reputation as being a dangerous handler that's going to get your dog killed. Hello. There's a little snake. This guy's not bad, though. He's never attacked a dog or a cow or a horse.
That we've seen on the show. But yeah, a good hunting dog, that would be pretty costly. I wouldn't exactly know, but...
Now...
Same with a cow. Cow would be freaking...
Oh, God. Cow is worth a few...
thousands.
Yeah. Even back in old...
I don't even know what a cow would cost nowadays.
My mom is unhappy. Leave the dogs alone. I'm sorry. Tell the Kansas hunters who are careless about their dogs going near bodies of water. I'm just waiting for someone to make a Chinese joke.
I was going to make a wing dog joke.
No. Anyway. But no, a lot of people argue about if Sam could be the Kingsman monster. But again, the big thing that refutes it is there's no photographs of either of these creatures. It's all stories. Now, in fact, supposedly, there's even claims that Kingsman is smart and recognizes when someone is pointing a camera at him. Which sounds like something out of a horror movie, an animal that is that smart. But here's the thing. Okay, you're a creature. You're out looking for food. You need food or you're going to die. You see this bipedal creature, and it's just pointing something in your general direction. Are you curious about what this is?
Sounds like you'd hide.
I'm not going to go near that. If this thing is standing its ground and it's actually holding something closer to me, that probably means it's confident it can kill me, and I don't want that. So yeah, no, it makes sense that Kingsman would want to not be, filmed. He doesn't know what it's doing. He just knows
something's there with something.
And it's not scared of me. It's not running from me. In nature, what do? You either fight or you flight. Well, they're not flying, so what do you think it wants to do with you?
Fight.
Exactly. So yeah, it makes sense that this creature would want to get the hell out of there if it thinks it's got something pointed at it. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, this is one of the very few cryptids of Kansas. The monster of Kingsman County and Sinkhole Sam. Or, if you want to call him by his other name, because I guess you just don't like the poor bastard, Foopengurkle.
Foopengurkle.
Who even comes up with... That's going to be one of those things. It's like, actually, it's a Scandinavian term for a circumcised penis. Or some ridiculous thing that we don't actually want to know. So if you know what a Foopengurkle is, please shut up.
What's a Foopengurkle?
Foopengurkle, excuse me.
Foopengurkle.
I don't even want to know. I'm kind of surprised you're not looking it up right now. Foopengurkle.
How do you even spell that?
F-O-O.
F-O-O.
P-E-N-G-E-R-K-L-E. Foopengurkle.
Foopengurkle. Oh, the snake of Kansas.
You're going to find, yeah.
The Legend of Sinkhole Sam. Sinkhole Sam is a worm-like creature. 1952, monster turns out to be plain old.
So it's not a word, it's a name. It doesn't...
Plain old Foopengurkle, the Salina Journal.
See, that's a drawing you're looking at.
Yeah, this is a drawing of a big snake.
Biting someone on the ass.
Biting a guy by his trousers.
But, okay, so it's not a word, it's a name. Who came up with Foopengurkle?
See, these look like huge earthworms. Oh.
See, earthworms don't have mouths. Well, actually, now that I think about it, the only story of it being aggressive is the guy who didn't see it actually attack the cow. Just the cow was gone. Could Sinkhole Sam be a worm?
These pictures I'm seeing remind me more of earthworms.
Yeah.
This is MetaZoo Archives.
Now, the monster of Kingsman County, that's a snake. Specifically, is called a serpent, a snake. That's kind of cute. He's smiling even.
A lot of these pictures are just cute earthworms with he even has the lands.
That's adorable. But anyway.
Yeah, these pictures that I'm seeing online when I type in
Foopengurkle is a worm.
Earthworm looking.
Okay. But
which, I mean, a snake and a worm?
Well, yeah, well, to be fair, okay, if it's 30 feet freaking long...
Yeah, that's like a snake.
Okay.
I have my computer up. We're looking at pictures of Foopengurkle, and a lot of them
and it's
are
a worm.
worm-like.
Yeah. Okay.
Sicilian, which is like a big blue worm thing. That's what it kind of reminds me of. And a lot of them are cute. It's smiling. And
yeah, they draw him kind of cute. But to be fair, he's also never been aggressive except for one story that a drunk dude coincidentally just looked away and wasn't able to get the footage of, right?
Then again, if it's your local cryptid, I mean, obviously it's like the coolest thing ever.
Well, it's never hurt anybody as far as I know.
That is a real picture, and that is actually really scary.
I can't see. Aw.
Okay, what I'm looking at is a picture of somebody who's actually right there photographing a snake.
Inches away from the lens.
And
the flathead specifically is Sam. Kingsman is described as being a snake, and he'll attack dogs and cattle and sheep and horses and stuff. But no, we're looking at this and
see, now that he says it,
in drawings, yeah, they draw this creature looking more like a big worm.
Yeah.
Like with no mouth, well, maybe a mouth, but
see, this one he's smiling.
Yeah, he's often drawn cute, which is actually a really good segue to our next cryptid.
This one, he had little legs. Again, smiling, mouth open. cartoony, but not like.
But it's fitting that we talk about Sam. Maybe he's not so bad. Maybe him and Kingsman are two different creatures.
See, here's Sinkhole Sam, and this is more like.
That again looks more like a worm.
Dune. Yeah, but it's more of a worm. It reminds me more of Dune. Ugh.
Oh, hi, Big Al. Hello. It looks like maybe it's a worm from Beetlejuice. Sandworms from Saturn, I believe is what those were. Saturn sandworms. But anyway.
Yeah, this is depicting all this. This is all art. This isn't real.
Yeah, there's no
footage.
photos of. There's no photos or footage of Sinkhole Sam or Kingsman.
A huge worm or a caecilian, which is a big blue worm.
Yeah. But anyway, from the weird, people kind of do get protective of their local cryptids. You notice that?
Yeah.
Tremors in the water. No, well, maybe. But again, Sam's never hurt anybody. He's scared the bejesus out of a bunch of people, but there's no accounts of him attacking anyone or harming anyone. Again, aside from one cow. Allegedly. Kingsman is the dangerous one that'll eat your damn dog. So there you go. There you go, folks. Go say hi to Sinkhole Sam. Foopengurkle. Who thought up Foopengurkle? I want to talk to this person. Graboids. Yeah, that's a great movie. I love Tremors.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can stop at 2, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like 3. Not needed.
I like
and
3,
we don't speak of anything beyond 3. Those didn't happen. Anyway, though. Next up, we're going to Alaska. Oh, I don't drink. I don't. And when I did, it would usually be like a drink. You know what I mean? I honestly think I've only gotten drunk once in my life.
I remember you were giggling.
Oh yeah, everything was funny as hell. I turned into the Joker. Everything was funny. But anyway, trying to look up cryptids from Alaska made me wonder if a Tom Collins would be good right now. Because remember, I said I wanted to more avoid the supernatural stuff. I wanted to talk about monsters. I wanted to talk about animals, actual cryptids. Here's the problem with Alaska. You cannot take 3 steps in Alaska without stepping in yellow snow or bumping into some sort of ghost from an old Navajo legend, even though the Navajo people never lived anywhere near Alaska. But that's beside the point.
Or Bigfoot. I'm assuming Bigfoot.
No, there's not even that much talk about Bigfoots or Yetis or anything. It's all these ghosts from frickin' Native American times. It is the most aggravating thing to look up not supernatural cryptids from Alaska. But I found one. And I may have found the most precious gem of a monster that must be protected at all costs.
Fair.
No, she's another sea serpent. Well, lake serpent. Her name is Ilya. Illia. She is named after the Ilium Lake.
Ilya.
She is absolutely adorable. She has... Okay, so here's the thing about her. Because we have to explain. First of all, she is beloved by the people who live in the towns around this lake, which is huge, by the way. This lake is approximately 77 miles long, 22 miles wide, and they stopped measuring how deep it is because it goes down below 1,000 feet. This is a big effing lake. And I can already see what you're looking up. I will address that, I promise.
Yeah, okay, there's a video. Yeah.
I will address to that. Don't waste my don't spoil the ending. Anyway,
Okay.
she is something that dates back to the 1940s. In fact, specifically, it is said that she was first seen in 1938 by a group of fishermen who claimed that they saw, quote, something in the lake. They agreed that the creature was roughly 30 feet long. It was pale, almost white, but its head was not shaped like a fish. In fact, actually, it was shaped like a wolf. Don't look at me like that.
I know exactly what this is.
I'll get to it. Don't be so smug. Now,
Well,
in the times that she has been seen, since that first reported account of seeing her in, I believe it was 38, she has been seen, documented. They actually put it on record. I believe, where did I put the notes? Of course I didn't write it down. About 240 times. And that's just documentation. Lots of people say they've seen her and they just didn't bother documenting it because she's completely harmless. She is described as being a gentle giant, except for one circumstance, but we'll get to that later. There are lots of stories of people saying they see her near the shoreline. Apparently, she actually likes to watch people, and some people even claim she's mischievous about it. She'll if you go on that water, there's a chance that she will follow your boat and specifically raise her fin. She has fins like a shark. She'll raise her fin out of the water to try and spook you. But there's only a certain couple incidences of her ever actually harming anyone, which is where we have to get into the complicated part about her. Much like Nessie, the Jersey Devil, and the Mothman, she appears in kind of seasons that span decades apart. For example, she was seen multiple times throughout the 40s, and flash forward, in the 70s, she resurfaced, being seen dozens of times over the course of the year, and then disappearing again. It was in the 70s that it's claimed she actually did attack some people. One claim from some individuals who barely survived claimed that she was now over 60 feet long and she had literally engulfed their boat and spat it out. The important part about this is that she was no longer alone. Reports claimed that all around her was a school of much smaller things like herself, wolf-headed fish that were pale. And that's kind of her MO. Every few decades, there's dozens of sightings of her with these tiny somethings. And all the women who are watching this right now probably are saying the same exact thing. She's a mama. Those are her babies. Hey, Joseph, what's the second most dangerous thing in the world? A pregnant woman. What's the most dangerous thing in the world? Pregnant woman with a gun. No. Supposedly this creature lives in these waters, and there are claims that much like Nessie, there are underground channels that she leaves. She migrates out, goes, gets knocked up, and comes back to raise pups. There are other weird stories about her. Some claim that she's a type of whale, because they claim that she'll sometimes breach the water and spray out this mist and then sink back down, like a whale taking a breath. Again, supposedly sometimes, if you're really lucky, she'll do this near your boat trying to scare you. She likes to spook people. She's a spooky old lady. But again, yeah, if she has her pups with you, she can attack you. And again, apparently she can fit a whole boat in her mouth and spit it out like a loogie. Which I guess is preferable. I mean, you could go the other direction in her mouth if if you prefer, but either way, don't mess with her when she has her pups. Any other time, she's completely harmless. And it's funny because the people, again, who live around this lake, because it's a big-ass lake. There are multiple little towns and stuff like that around it. And they will fiercely defend her. It's funny. If you go there, the locals, they're like, don't you mess with that lake. Don't you talk bad about Ilya. She's a sweetheart. She's a gentle creature. She hasn't done anything bad to anybody. Unless you threaten her babies, which, by the way, completely justifiable. I don't think anyone is going to say, yeah, don't go near the babies. It's a simple concept, right? But here's the problem. If you try to look this creature up, and I'm kind of glad Jesus is in here because he'd make a big deal about me saying this. I think there's a conspiracy afoot. Now, some of you might remember way back when we talked about the Fresno Nightwalkers. And I said how frustrating it is to actually do research on these creatures because 90% of the internet is literally people saying you're stupid for thinking the Fresno Nightwalkers exist. The same thing happens if you dare to look up Ilya. Because of a mega corporation. You think I'm making this up? No. Multi-million-dollar corporation. Animal Planet. Dedicated weeks of promoting an episode of their show, River Monsters, where every few goddamn minutes they said Ilya is a white sturgeon. White sturgeon, white sturgeon, white sturgeon. You'd think it was Beetlejuice, they were trying to summon one. And they had this special episode where they were hunting Ilya, looking for a white sturgeon. Guess what happened? They didn't find a fucking white sturgeon. They showed footage of them. They didn't catch this allegedly, 60-foot long white sturgeon. But, oddly enough, they never, ever shut up about it. For again, they promoted that they were doing this episode for months. Commercials, segments, other shows on Animal Planet talked about this huge deal that they were going to find Ilya, because Ilya is a white sturgeon, and you're an idiot if you think otherwise. I mean, the science is settled, okay? She's a white sturgeon. You just need to be quiet. And it infuriates me because it's like, okay, one, the science is settled is the most unscientific thing you can ever say, period, end of story. And two, I got to go back to our boy Shakespeare. I think doth do protest too much. Because there are two people in this world. There are people who live around this lake who absolutely love Ilya and swear up and down that she's real, she's mostly harmless, and, by the way, she's growing. In the 1940s, they said she was 30 feet long. 1970s, they claimed she was close to 60 feet long. 2017, there were so many reporting sightings of her that the actual wildlife agencies of the American federal government had to acknowledge and archive the numerous sightings of this creature. And in 2017, they were saying she was close to 90. So this creature is still growing. And by the way, if people say that's too big, 90 feet, there are whales that get around that size. And if we're talking about 1,000-foot deep lake, if she swam and had her nose to the tip of the surface, she'd only be reaching down a tenth of that lake. And actually, it's deeper than 1,000 feet because they stopped measuring it. after 1,000 feet. Which is another weird thing for them to do, don't you think? Like I said, it's weird. The more you hear about this, the more it seems really weird. And again, there is this active force on the internet that will try to shut you up if you talk about her. If you talk about her, you're obviously an idiot who never saw Animal Planet. I mean, Animal Planet would never be wrong. They're experts. It's obviously a white sturgeon, even though they weren't able to catch one. Supposedly with the greatest freshwater fisherman on the planet for his show, weren't able to catch one. But it's obviously that. It's not that it's some other kind of creature. No, can't be that. No, not at all. And again, that's something that irks me, because it's like, it's suspicious. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. It's suspicious. And it's like, what are you hiding? Why don't you want us talking about Ilya? It's the same with the Fresno Nightwalkers. Why do you have such a hate boner if I mention this creature? You know what I mean? It's just suspicious. And again, it's a polar opposite. The closer you get to that lake, the more people just love this creature. There are gift shops just like Nessie over in Scotland. Scotland. You can go and buy. I swam with Ilya t-shirts. You can buy plushies of these weird wolf-headed fish. They're adorable. But the minute you step outside of these towns, on the internet, you're so stupid if you dare say that she's anything other than a white sturgeon. Even though white sturgeon don't get 60 feet long, they don't get 90 feet long. And do baby sturgeons stay with their mother, or are they like sharks? They swim off by themselves, don't they?
As far as I know, yeah. I've seen sturgeons. They'll get about like 15, 20 feet long.
Yeah, but that's not 60 or 90 feet like she's supposed to be. And I don't know. I want to talk about this one because this creature, it sounds adorable on paper. It's a dog-headed fish that likes to scare people.
Sounds like a sturgeon.
Sounds adorable. And of course, there are stories from pre-American times. The Native Americans claim things that lake was, holy, and there was a lake goddess in there. So apparently she's a deity. But what's interesting is that the Native American stories actually coincide with the American stories. That whatever is there, whether it's some kind of spirit or a deity or a white sturgeon, it's not a freaking white sturgeon. Whatever it is, aside from when it's with its babies, it's harmless. In fact, it seems kind of friendly. Which, by the way, because everyone always brings it up, that doesn't sound right. Why would a big creature like that be friendly? Because it doesn't have any predators. This is a thing. No. If you go to some coastal regions, especially near the equator, there are boat tours that will take you to swim with basking sharks. You know why? Because basking sharks like people. Basking sharks have no natural predators. They have no fear of anything. So when they see something as weird as a human, it's interesting, and they want to see us. So they swim near boats, and they'll let you go near them. It doesn't hurt that they're also largely kind of dumb. They're not the smartest fish in the sea. But no, that's actually a theory. It's like, you want to call her a sturgeon. Okay. There's as much proof she's a white sturgeon as there is that she's a basking shark. Just an albino. And for the record, if you see this creature and you hear these stories and you think, yeah, it does sound like a white sturgeon, that's perfectly fine. That's a completely valid explanation. That's a huge freaking sturgeon, I would argue. And also, sturgeons aren't friendly or docile like she's supposed to be. But no, I mean, until you actually know what the creature is, yeah, it could be a sturgeon of some kind. I don't know if I'd say sturgeons look like they have a wolf head or a canine head, but still, they do have fins. They get very long. They can be pale. Okay, close. But again, it annoys me how there's this fury and this anger if you dare to say it's anything other than a white sturgeon, because Animal Planet of all things said so. But yeah, I wanted to talk about her because she sounds like some kind of weird cartoon from the 80s, you know? This big ass fish with a dog head who likes to prank people. Tell me that doesn't sound like something that escaped from My Frickin' Little Pony. I'm going to stand on this hill. I wish Tara was here because she'd be able to back me up on this. That sounds like a character from that show. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to get that one off my chest. And also, she's one of the few not magic freaking cryptids of Alaska. So thank you, Ilya, for at least giving me that lifeline. Even though, again, yeah, the ancient... Well, I guess it's not fair to call them ancient. What were the Alaska? Was that the Inuit?
Eskimo.
That's good.
The offensive name now, Inuit, Eskimo.
Well, no, that's what the tribe was, right? No, Inuit were more southern Canada, weren't they? I feel like your dad could help us out on that. That sounds like something your dad would know. Eskimos were Alaskan. Inuit were more south, I think. But either way, the point is, the original people in the area, they said that there was something there and it was magical. But yeah, no, Ilya is just a big, dumb, adorable fish, and she must be protected at all costs from these Animal Planet cultists who want to make her a frickin' white sturgeon. Even though they didn't catch a white sturgeon when they were there. But anyway, back to my point. You know, and I wanted to talk about her. I like this little guy. I like this little critter. Well, she's not little. She's supposed to be 90 feet long. Now that I think about it, she'd go through our apartment, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
I don't think our apartment is 90 feet long.
Maybe at the longest from door to end of room.
Maybe
But
she might fit. I'm not sure about that.
not in our living room.
No, she would be smashing through everything. Also, for the record, if she does have a canine head, yes, I would try to pet her. Might be the last thing I do on this earth, but when you see a gigantic dog head, you have to pet it. I don't write the rules, okay? And I don't want to hear people say there, wait, what rules? When you see a dog, you have to pet it. Period. End of story. It's in the rule book. I think it's in the Bible somewhere. Probably in Leviticus. I don't know. Everything's in Leviticus. Anyway, though. Yeah, that's Ilya. Leave her alone. She's not a damn white sturgeon. Well, probably not a white sturgeon. I'll give you that. She's probably not. But we're going to move along to our grand finale. Probably the only cryptid that has actually made me stop and go, can we talk about this? We're going to talk about this because we're going to Louisiana with probably the most gross, vile, and, what would the kids in California say? Problematic cryptids I've ever heard of. Now, real quick, well, why are you talking about it if it's so bad? Because Louisiana has the same problem as Alaska. Everything there is either a Bigfoot or freaking magic. And I am trying to avoid magic. See, people don't realize, I did not realize how much of an undertaking this would be talking about cryptids from each state, because pretty much it's Bigfoot or it's magic. That is North America's cryptids. They're either magic, Bigfoot, or an alien. That's it. That is it. Good night, Dad. Love you too.
Good night.
Anyway, though. So this last one we're talking about, and I'm kind of glad that Jesus isn't here, because he would give us no end to jokes. Don't laugh. This creature is known as the Grunch. I said don't laugh. Anyway, this monstrosity, and it earns that name. Well, hi. Yeah, calm down, you little bastard. Anyway, the Grunch is... I said don't laugh. Anyway, probably one of the most disgusting creatures imaginable. To any Warhammer fans out there, if you were to ever see this monstrosity, you could probably put it on the table and make it count as a beast of Nurgle, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. It is absolutely repugnant and vile. It is said to have an odor so strong it can actually send you into convulsions. It can cause vomiting, it can cause people to pass out, on top of having a horrible, gargly, guttural sound that few witnesses have claimed once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It's like you always can remember how horrible this noise is. One witness described it as, imagine if you actually heard a baby drowning. That's the noise this creature makes. Yeah, I know. It's evil. It's a monster. But anyway, let's talk about it, shall we, folks? So we're going to have to go down to Nolans, which, by the way, is the correct way that the city's name is pronounced. It's Nolans, not New Orleans. That's white folk talk. Nolans. And this creature dates back actually before America. Hold on here, I have it here. I swear I do. Yeah, roughly to the 1720s, which is when the city itself was founded by the French. Before we came along and decided that we basically pay next to nothing for it. Anyway, and the stories of this creature are interesting. How do I address this? And how do I justify this? Okay, so I've always said that whether the stories are true or not... Hi, Donson. Hi, Donson. Whether the stories are true or not, stories have power. They can influence people. They can also serve as a kind of carbon footprint. When you hear a story told genuinely, you kind of see a reflection of the storyteller. This is what some people argue is so important about the stories in the Bible. Because whether they're true or not, there's a virtue, there's a philosophy to those stories, for example, of Jesus Christ. And whether or not he's actually a deity and he came from the dead, blah, 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 that doesn't change the integrity and the potency of his stories. The problem with this is that there's a yin to this yang. Just like a story can show you the best about someone, stories can also show you the worst of a society. And that, at its core, is the Grunch. So, the oldest story of how this creature came to be is that there was a family of, don't laugh, albino midgets who were being kept against their will in a circus. Yes, we are going there. And basically they were so abused that some local townsfolk took pity on them and broke them out of the circus, and they fled into the bayou. Now the problem is okay, they have their freedom now, and what do? They couldn't just go into Nolans and then live there. Everyone would know who they were, and well, people might send them back to the circus. So they had to live out in the bayou. Keep in mind, we're talking about a single family. So they did what people claim circus folk did back in those times. They supposedly had gratuitous amounts of incestual sex and tried to basically breed their own little settlement out there in the bayou. The problem is that, I'm just going to be blunt and tell the story as it's told. You already have people with those undesirable genes and attributes breeding with their own family members. Every generation that they successfully birthed into the world became less and less human, becoming more and more monstrous. Some stories even go so far that God himself looked down on this group of people, these albino midgets who escaped from the circus, and was repulsed by them and actually cursed them, ultimately leading to one of their children truly and definitively being an abomination, which they called Grunch, named after the backwoods road that he basically fell out of his mother's womb on. What's interesting is that Grunch existed. There was a Grunch Road once upon a time. After the American purchase of Louisiana, the road was paved and given a new name. But yes, there was a Grunch Road. See, Mom, I've heard that it's the other way around. It's disrespectful to call it New Orleans. It's supposed to be Nolans. But that's not the point. Anyway, now, for the record, obviously that is a disgustingly ignorant, dismissive, demeaning story. But I want to point out that it also comes from the 1780s. Circuses and carnivals and freak shows were not approved of by society. People with legitimate afflictions and what's the word I'm looking for? Abnormalities? Abnormalities. Yeah, people with abnormalities were seen as inferior, as bad. What? Really, dude? Jeez, calm down, man. I know. What the hell? I'm not saying anything bad about people with dwarfism. I'm saying that's the story.
He has the perfect height for what he is. He's a kobold.
I know, but still, my point is, you talk about short things, you talk about little things, and he gets so angry. Anyway, anyone paying attention will be able to see that this clearly was a story passed around by bigoted people, trying to discredit, dismiss, and, discourage things that they didn't approve of. The weird thing is that the Grunch persisted, and its origin changed over time, and it became even more grotesque and vile in appearance, shape, and form. Now, there are two consistent depictions of this creature. One is as a hideous, furless, canine-like creature with wrinkly, saggy, bloated skin. Some people have jokingly called it the Shar-Pei from hell, for an example. One bizarre feature of it is that it's depicted as being four-legged, bipedal, but it has hands on the end of each of its limbs. As I mentioned before, it makes an absolutely horrible sound that haunts you and scars you mentally. It stinks so bad that it can send you into convulsions. And often it is described as just looking filthy, covered in muck, or sometimes even bodily waste and excrement. Some stories even claim that it's covered in gore, that it actually, you know how a pig will wallow in mud to cool itself off because they can't sweat? Supposedly this creature will do that in viscera, it'll attack creatures and just gore them to smear their blood and guts all over its filthy, disgusting body. The other depiction of this creature is so much worse. It is described as looking something like a fully grown human-sized fetus. When I was looking it up, in fact, anyone who's played the most recently Resident Evil game, what is it, Village, I think it's called? There's this baby monster that crawls around and attacks you. I've heard some people claim that thing is actually based on the Grunch. Because again, it looks like a half-formed baby. It also sounds like a baby and will actually make noises like an animal or a child in distress to lure people towards it. Which, by the way, real quick, if I smell something so bad it makes me actually start to seizure, I don't care what I hear screaming and crying out in the bayou. Unless it's like my mom or a family member, unless it's a family member, you're dead, dude. I'm sorry. I am not going towards the stench of repugnance.
Only Jesus was here. He walked into that one.
Yeah, I know.
Stench of repugnance. My mom.
Anyway, but what's interesting is that this creature, its origins have changed over the generations. A good example is that in actually more recent times, I want to say it was like the 80s or the 90s actually, the legendary doctor Mary Laveau, aka the voodoo mother, the voodoo queen of Nolans, was accused of being the origin of the grunge. Keep in mind, despite the fact that she was, in my personal opinion, she was a legitimate herbologist. Yeah, she knew about voodoo and stuff like that, and she would do seances and things like that, but she also legitimately was a pharmacist. She legitimately prescribed herbal remedies to people who were sick. And personally, okay, I mean, like, it's the same thing with faith healers. It's like, if it actually helps people, cool. I don't see the problem here. But she was actually a very controversial figure, especially with the more authoritative aspect of Louisiana. She was not popular with the government. You ever notice that the government just seems to not like people who are just helping other people in the area?
Huh.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Huh.
Mr. Bishop is just snickering. I can feel him snickering at that line. But anyway, yeah, funny how that always works out. Anyway, so the story goes that Mary Laveau was entrusted with a baby. The mother was apparently really sick, and they were afraid she was going to die, and so they asked Mary to be the godmother of this baby that she was trying to deliver. And Mary, ever trying to be helpful, she agreed, and then the mother died. And then Mary took one look at the baby and was so disgusted by its mal-shaped appearance that she took a pair of pruning shears and castrated it. Yes, you heard me right. This is a story they told about Mary Laveau. Anyway, well, here's the creepy part. Apparently this baby was so vile, so malformed, so unnatural, that his testes, when they were snip-snooed off of his body, grew into 2 more of these hideous monstrosities. One of which Mary threw into the bayou, and the other 2 supposedly she actually threw in an oven and burnt them, hoping that that would stop them from growing. I'll give everyone a moment to recover from this horrible story, but that's supposedly the origin of the grunge. Once again, it's nothing but negative, nasty things to say about somebody that society didn't like at the time. It's very interesting. It, it's like the grunge is, you know how they say you can cut a tree and you can count the rings to see the age? It's like the tree of just bigotry, isn't it? This monster is just used as a story to slander and say this thing that I don't like or I don't understand is bad. Now, the monster itself, there's not too much to talk about. It's more of an urban legend. Yeah, I guess it is kind of magic, but it's also not Bigfoot, so it's something to work with. And it's not Rougarou, which, by the way, real quick, we're going to do a shout out. Rougarou and Loup-garou are not the same thing. Rougarou is a specific werewolf in Louisiana. Specifically, he haunts around Nolens. Loup-garou is just the general kind of slang term a few centuries ago for a werewolf in France. So, real quick, that annoys me because people say loup-garou and rougarou like you can just interchange them. No. That would be like if you called the president human. Yeah, he's a human, but he has a name, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, real quick, rougarou is a loup-garou, but not every loup-garou is rougarou. There's someone we should talk about. We should talk about werewolves again. Talk about rougarou. But anyway, by the way, real quick, I want to point out this disgusting, vile, hideous monster that is basically just this big thumbprint of bigotry and disdain. Thank the French. he's a legend. No, the grunge predates
White flag.
the white flag. Yep, Mary, the voodoo queen. I actually kind of like her. I think she is very unfairly remembered. I think she was a doctor. She was a pharmacist. And she used faith healing, but she also prescribed herbal remedies, which are perfectly valid, as long as they actually work. But back to my point, I like her. I like Mary. Have we talked about her briefly, if I recall? Way back when.
Very briefly.
Yeah, we didn't go too deep into her, but I like her actually. Now watch back in that episode I said she was a fake or something.
I don't recall that.
I don't recall. No, I
I
think
a
I've always.
paragraph or a sentence or two about it.
Yeah, I only glanced over her because she's a very controversial figure.
She's never really came up.
Yeah, she's famous in New Orleans. She's famous in the voodoo culture. But again, I would argue she was a legitimate doctor. She was just an herbologist. She used herbs instead of, pharmaceutical chemicals. I mean, hey, if it works, I don't give a crap. Hey, if you're preventing someone from dying from a fever, I really don't care how you do that. You know what I mean? But that's another whole topic. Anyway, back to my point. The grunge is this perfect example of a slanderous story. Now, some people say this is very similar to the Jersey Devil, that the Jersey Devil was spawned as a besmirchment of the Leeds family. Excuse me. In other versions of the grunge origin, Mary Laveau was its actual mother. In the story, she herself had fallen into debt, because obviously she was in debt, and she took to prostitution to find a way to make, her debts go away. Which, of course, resulted in a pregnancy, which she attempted to abort herself, but it didn't quite work, and the fetus was born alive, and she threw it in the bayou because she was ashamed of it, blah, blah, blah. Typical demonization, nasty talk about someone who conveniently isn't here to defend herself, by the way, I want to point out. All these stories about Mary Laveau and the Grunch, all of them started circulating after Miss Laveau had already died. Convenient, that, isn't it? They love to talk about these people who aren't there to explain themselves, like Lovecraft. Fun side note, by the way. So the original story of the Grunch, being the incestual child of a bunch of albino midgets who ran away from the circus or whatever the hell. Fun little side note about that. I would make an argument the Grunch is the most Lovecraftian cryptid. Because in his earlier writings, Lovecraft, one of his big draws, one of the big bullets he had in the chamber, so to speak, was the revelations of incestual breeding. The Lurking Horror, I believe it was, or the Whisperer in the Dark, both of those stories actually were about a creature that was resulted from incestual breeding.
What about the Thing?
The Thing? No. The Thing was a synthetic life form. The Shaggoth?
That was an alien.
Well, the Thing, yeah, but the Thing is based off the Mountain of Madness, and it's specifically based off of Shaggoth, which the Shaggoth was actually a synthetic life form created by aliens. But anyway, no, Lovecraft was very fond of using incest as a villainous thing, an evil attribute, that created monsters and abominations and so on. No one ever mentions this, but it's even implied in the Dunwich Horror that the Dunwich Horror may have liked its mother a little too much, if you know what I mean, and I think you do.
Oh, that book is right there.
Yeah, there it is. Anyway, though, it's a good book, by the way. If you haven't read or listened to an audiobook of the Dunwich Horror, you should. It's honestly one of Lovecraft's best. I wouldn't say it's my personal favorite, but it is definitely a good one. Anyway, though, back to my point. Yeah, no, the Grunch is right up there in the kind of stuff that Lovecraft wrote about with inbreeding and, undesirable genetics. Which is funny, by the way, real quick, we'll bring this up. Lovecraft actually came to regret a lot of those stories because when he wrote them, he was actually very ignorant about how genetics actually works. Keep in mind, Lovecraft was not a very educated man. He never went to high school. He was homeschooled almost his entire life. So he had a lot of learning to do in his 30s when he was a grown-ass man and basically hid at the library to get away from his mother. And he actually even commented how he's like, so many great stories, and I emphasized on the wrong things, and he regretted them actually a little bit. But I mean, that's kind of the story of Lovecraft, right? He wrote something and then he regretted it. Anyway, though, Lovecraft is a very sad topic.
And here I have a book by Robert A.
Heinlein. As far as I know, not as sad a person as Lovecraft was, but
No.
when was he around? What was he?
He was 50s.
50s? Okay, so yeah, he was well after Lovecraft. Hell, Lovecraft was dead by the time he...
This is Red Planet by Heinlein.
Yep.
And I mean, Heinlein, Starship Troopers.
Yep. One of the greatest sci-fi concepts ever. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. Yeah, no, the Grunch... I admit I feel like I'm kind of reaching for a Louisiana cryptid, but I wanted to talk about him because the Grunch is a great example of why cryptid stories are important. Because like I said, these stories kind of can show you what matters. The same way that you can see how Ilya matters to the little towns and stuff around her lake. The same way that the Jersey Devil matters. The same way that Bigfoot matters. Now, in the case of the Grunch, it's the other direction. Bigfoot and Ilya, and even to a degree the Jersey Devil, through them we see something good in our society. We see the things we value. the grunge is this uncomfortable showing of just how I'll just say it, how much of an asshole humans can be. Because again, this creature is literally nothing but an insult to. It started out as an insult to midgets, to circus folk, and then later it was used as an insult against a woman who was unpopular with the government. You know what I mean? And I mean, you can find more stories about this. It's always something bad. You know, it's always those dang foreigners from the Gulf of Mexico. Yep, they came up north, and because of them, we have grunge.
We have the grunge.
Yeah, no. You know why it's here? Because them damn New Yorkers came down. No. Conveniently, the grunge's origin is whatever you don't like. Fancy how that works, isn't it? But be he ever so vile and disgusting, because I don't want to think what a man-sized fetus abortion looks like. I'm happier not having that image in my head. I'm happier with the Shar-Pei from hell. Can we keep that version? That I'm okay with. And even that sounds horrible. Seriously, this is a creature. I remember my grandpa used to always joke. Because people would argue, you know, well, where do you draw the line on eating animals, you know? You say you eat pork and cow, but you say it's wrong to eat dog or cat. And he goes, well, yeah, have you ever seen a pig's face? You do it a favor by eating it, so it doesn't have to see itself in the reflections of the water and stuff like that. You know, there's creatures that are so ugly they're kind of cute in a way. And then there's things like the grunch is described as, and it is physically too ugly to live. Somewhere, somehow, some way, the grunch is actually hearing this broadcast, and he's just like, "What can hurt?"
Grunch is your biggest fan.
Right? He's that dude in the bushes out there that keeps asking me to talk about the three butthole cat. Anyway, though. Is it because I'm moving? I think he's good here. Whenever he's with you, he just decides to lunge at me.
Fine.
Anyway, though. But, like I said, the grunch... There you are, you little bastard. Anyway, the grunch has his place in the pantheon of American cryptids. Even if it's not a pleasant example, it's an important example. But yeah, I'll kind of start winding this down. Don't be a grunch. Don't be an asshole. You don't have to like everyone. You don't have to love everyone. That's perfect. I get that. That's fine. But I'm just going to point out real quick. If you find yourself disliking someone or a group or whatever to the point that you claim they somehow spawned the most ugly, disgusting creature imaginable since the politician you don't like, maybe you need to chill. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to look at yourself for a second here. But in any case, would you calm down?
He's agreeing with you.
The poor guy can't move his head, so he has to like move his whole body, and it looks like he's getting ready to lunge at me or something. Anyway, though.
Oh, he just jumps.
Yeah. Anyway, though. But yeah, those are our cryptids from Kansas, Alaska, and Louisiana. And I really hope those are the three hardest ones, because boy howdy, you don't realize how much I had to dig to find one from Louisiana and frickin' Alaska. Kansas wasn't hard, actually, because there's like three.
Unless you find a corn monster.
That sounds like a Power Ranger villain. The dreaded corn monster of Kansas. Oh god, that's a thing, isn't it?
10-Bit from Power Rangers?
See, now I'm was there a corn thing? I don't know. Questions for later. Anyway, though. I remember corn thinking it, but at the same time, it's like, that sounds right.
I only watched up to Lost Galaxy, so after that, I don't know.
Well, I remember Zed, his big thing was taking normal objects and turning them into monsters. So I feel kind of like there was actually a corn monster or a food monster.
Oh, there was tons of food monsters.
But anyway, hey, come for the cryptids, stay for the completely incoherent rambling. I'm just glad Jesus is in here because you know he would. Oh boy, howdy. You know, I bet you there's some version of the Grunch story that says it was Mexicans. It actually was Mexicans who made it.
Mexicans who don't play Fortnite.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean,
You know who it was. You know who it was. It was those damn sweats.
oh yeah, those Fortnite people. Oh yeah.
Obviously, they made the Grunch. But anyway, folks.
Check out our Loveless channel, playing Fortnite.
Yeah, don't forget to check out. He was all kinds of ornery the other day. Did you hear him? Something about a crusade.
Oh yeah.
Something about someone. I don't know. There was a girlfriend involved or something. I really don't know what. Half the time he seems kind of incoherently rambling, kind of like me actually. Wonder if there's a connection there. Anyway, though, go check out the Lobalist channel. Subscribe if you haven't. We really want to push and actually get him to 50 so he can live stream too, and he doesn't have to steal my freaking channel.
Damn.
Seriously, I'm at work, and my phone goes off. Hey, dude, you're live streaming right now. No, I'm not. The hell is this shit? And where were you?
What?
Two people hack my channel and live stream 2 different times.
I get up at like 3:30 a.m. every morning. I was asleep probably.
The bishop in the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, though. No, get him to 50 so he can leave my damn channel alone. Anyway, folks. Thank you all for joining us tonight on our incoherent rambling about weird creatures.
Don's and lost Oscar.
Obviously, when Epic Games got rid of all the cool characters like Scar and Oscar, that's how the Grunch was made. Obviously.
Yeah.
No, you know who it was? Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, see, you can't even blame Epic Games. You gotta blame Disney.
Yeah, it was obviously Disney's fault who made the Grunch.
Disney.
Anything you don't like, that's the origin of the Grunch. Which is a funny joke to say, but at the same time, it's also a good example of, like I said, it's like the reverse Bigfoot. Because I remember our first episode, we mentioned that Bigfoot is this great example of the explorative, adventurous, nature of people, how we want to find these incredible creatures and we want to explore and we want there to be mysteries. And then you have the Grunch who just shows, people can actually say truly horrible things when they feel there's no consequence. You know what I mean? But again, both stories are important in their own way. As for next week we have a bit of a laundry list. There's some topics that we've kind of skirted around and left unfinished that we're going to be talking about next week. We're going to be talking some more about Bigfoot. We're going to talk a little bit more, hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully we can get to the bottom of this whole lineage situation that I may or may not have with the Chocoloca monster. Here's hoping. And we'll talk about some more incoherent, weird, random shit. There you go. There's a subtitle. You know what? We might just have to. Joe Bob Jericho with a baseball bat.
Why does he?
No. I would ask him questions and get some information out of him with a baseball bat. The bastard kidnapped me around this time, as I recall, because it was around when the Curiosities and Oddities Expo happened, which, by the way, we are going to be back, come hell or high water this time.
Today is August 28th. Oddities and Curiosities Expo is September 28th, so 1 month from now.
Yes, 1 month from now. We'll be back there. So if you're in the Denver area, make your reservations, get your tickets now. Maybe we'll see you there.
We'll get some footage and have
Assuming that some a-holes don't leave me again.
Well, I mean, you
And where were you, by the way?
he's on.
God damn it, get out of the doorway. Calm down. I suppose I should be glad he doesn't have the damn knife anymore.
Not right now.
Anyway, though, I have been Kristoff. Would you be gone, imp?
You got it.
He went and got it and just had to show it to me. We'll see you next week, folks. And as always, get him! Keep checking the shadows.
That was a reversal.
Yeah, no, it's a Kakarot.